Hello everyone, my name is Aaron Daniels and this is my extra credit video for Physics 2. The lecture I attended was how the Planck constant is better than a kilogram artifact, or how the history of measuring physics constants will lead to a new international system of metric units by Dr. Richard Steiner. Dr. Richard Steiner initially started off the presentation with a very in-depth history of how the kilogram has been determined. It is an artifact value, and by that he means that it has been experimentally determined for the past so many years. Now, what has traditionally been done to determine the measurement of the kilogram is that initially this artifact that you see in front of you was the initial kilogram, and then copies of it were made and sent out to parts of the world. Now, every so often they gather all the parts and they measure the weight again. Of those measurements, they take the average to determine the state of the kilogram for that present time. Since the other kilogram artifacts are exposed to weather and other elements, they are altered as time goes on, and experimentally this value is not very reliable. So what Dr. Richard Steiner has proposed is we use a bunch of experimental constants instead to determine the weight of the kilogram. Here's the new equation proposed to determine the weight of the kilogram. So you have the mass of an electron is equal to 2 times Planck's constant times the Rydberg constant all over the speed of light times the fine structure constant squared. Now the fine structure constant and Planck's constant and Rydberg's constant all have very low experimental differentiation values, which makes them very reliable and allows us to determine a more accurate measurement for the kilogram. Essentially, what this equation would find is the number of electrons within 1 kilogram, from which we could determine the mass of 1 kilogram from the mass of an electron. In order to make this a more experimentally sound measurement, Dr. Steiner proposes that we use a watt balance system. Now, what the watt balance system does is it compares the mechanical energy of the Earth pulling down on a 1 kilogram mass to a similar electrical force. This could be then used to determine 1 kilogram in terms of electrons. From there, we could use the mass of an electron to redefine the mass of a kilogram. Now, what really interests me about this entire lecture was not the whole redefinition of the kilogram, but rather the fact that the kilogram itself was not constant. It absolutely blew my mind to think that one person existing at one period of time and another person who has the same mass as the first person existing at second period of time would have different masses in terms of kilograms. The fact that the kilogram is not constant means that so much in the world is undetermined, at least to me, similar to how time is not constant. And the only thing in science that ever is constant is the speed of light. All of this really boggles my mind, and I really enjoyed learning that nothing is really certain in this world. Speaking of uncertainties, Dr. Steiner also mentioned in his lecture that the meter was once determined by an artifact. Here we have a picture of what was initially a meter long, but as you can see, it is also exposed to elements, and therefore the meter can change at given times. So I did a bit of research, and I found that in 1960, the meter was redefined to be the distance of 1,650,763.73 wavelengths of a krypton atom. However, it was redefined in 1983 to be the distance traveled by light in about 3.34 nanoseconds. I found this lecture to be very interesting in that the units we take for granted in our lives, such as the kilogram and the meter, were once figured by artifacts, and now they are being experimentally redone and redesigned so that they are more accurate and more precise within our everyday lives. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed this information as much as I did. Until next time.